Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee, which is delightful. Today is, say it with me, it is Friday, woohoo, August 30th. So last podcast of August. And I have a special coffee today. If you're on video, you'll see David went up to our little coffee shop and got me a latte. Grande Breve, two stevia. Well, medium. I think large for them, but that's my order. Amusingly, I can't remember where I was, Starbucks, but it wasn't my standard Starbucks. I've been moving around. Oh, I know, because it was Albuquerque when I was down there for Bubonicon. Oops, excuse me. Went to wipe dust off my keyboard and closed my window. Fortunately, the podcast kept going. Technical difficulties over here. So anyway, I walked over to the Starbucks and from the hotel and got my latte, and the counter said that is exactly my order. So it was just, I don't know, there's a certain sisterhood in that, right? Uh, so let's see. It's been a good week. I'm ramping up. I'm feeling good. Oops, hold on. I have the sprinkler going outside and I time it so that I don't forget because obviously I would and just did. Be right back. All right. So, um, yeah, I had a good week. That's right. Ramping up, watering the garden, all of these things. So, I'm happy to report that I have started the second book, the second tour book. We don't have a series name, I've realized. I may not have one. There's been no conversation about a series name. So I can't say book two in the whatever. And it's not precisely a sequel to Never the Roses. So anyway, it's Rose in the Mirror is my working title, and I've got almost 7,000 words on it. Way! Which is not awesome. I mean, if I were working at my 3,000 words a day, I would have 12,000 words, but I'll take it. I've been working at a pretty good pace this week, and I'm hoping to continue to increase, start working my way back up again. So, at this point, I am poised to have, well, if I have a good day today, I mean, if I had a 3,000 word day today, it would be my best week of the whole year. But as it is, it's poised to be one of my top weeks of the whole year. And it's definitely possible that this will be my second best month of the entire year. So I'm feeling very much she's back, baby. Um, in addition, thank you all for your kind words about my mom and the messages and so forth. She is so much better. She's feeling so much better. Um, she's even clearer in her text messages to me again. She's eating and enjoying food, and she's just more energy and clearer mind. I think she's very funny because she texts me when she wakes up, and she texted me a good morning, and it was early. It was like 6:30 her time, and I said, "Well, you're awake awfully early." And she said, "Yes, that she was a victim of restless kitty syndrome," which I thought was very funny. She's clever. So yeah, I think I've mentioned it before, and I keep telling this to her. I think that these blood clots were accumulating in her lungs for quite a while, and that it had been, um, just gradually decreasing her energy. And we thought it was all grief, and I'm sure the grief didn't help, but definitely helped. Um, yeah, she, I interesting thing. I've set her up with physical therapy for the spinal stenosis. We're trying to see if we'd really rather avoid surgery at her age. Spinal stenosis is when you have arthritis in the spine and it begins to impinge on the nerves. And so nerve pain, not muscle pain. For those who've been following the saga that, yeah, muscle relaxers are not going to help nerve pain. Um, and they make it crazy. Don't take baclofen. For people have asked, if you're not looking at the transcript, it's Baclofen, baclofen. So, yeah, just avoid. Apparently, a lot of people take it. Anyway, I had set my mom up with one other physical therapy appointment. My stepsister Hope took her, and the physical therapist was this young guy, late 20s, and he told my mom that she was too old and there was nothing he could do for her. And can you believe that? It's like it all pays the same, buddy. Oh, hang on. I had to go check on Killian. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, so what was I saying? You all know, and I don't. I wish there was a way I could, like, stop the recording and rewind. I know I always say that. Um, I don't think I was still talking about writing. Well, anyway, maybe it'll come back to me. Sorry. I know you're all shouting it at me. Uh, it was so fascinating. So, I was talking about my mom, yeah, the physical therapy. So, yeah, I was really happy that she wanted to try someone else. And what a jerk this guy was. Ageism is really a problem. And I have a friend, Susan, whose mother is also older, and we're both only children. And so we have a lot in common with helping our moms. And her mom was in a lot of pain, and they kept dismissing it. And it turned out her mom had a fractured bone. And she was just saying, society just ignores women's pain, and older women's pain is even worse. So yeah, this young guy is just like, oh, well, honey, you're too old and I can't do anything for you. And it's like, look, bucko, what would it have hurt you? But anyway, just as well, because he wouldn't have been into it. So I talked to another place yesterday, and they were great. And now I knew the question to ask, will you even treat her? Will you put any effort into this? And they were fantastic. They said, absolutely, there are things that we can do. So things are looking up there. I'm getting my writing mojo back. I was very tempted to, Reluctant Wizard released on Tuesday. Thank you all for buying it. The sales have been really great, and I'm loving hearing the squeeing over it. And I've got the second book up for pre-order with a very generous deadline. And I'm tempted to put the third book, because it bothers me that it says book 1 of 2, which is stupid. That shouldn't bother me. But I really want to get that third book up for pre-order. I know the title. And so here's my conundrum. And I already know Assistant Corrine's opinion. So, Corrine, I don't care what you think. I do care, but I may ignore your opinion. I have the second book up for pre-order for January. And let's see, what did I do it for? January 31st, last possible day in January, which I think I should be able to do. I should be able to finish writing A Rose in the Mirror and then write this book. And then the thing about the third book, which I'm calling Magic Reborn, you heard it here first. Okay, so I have a non-compete agreement with Never the Roses. It's smaller. Sarah whittled it down, but this is just standard now that they ask, and it is in the contract. And it's hard to say like how mad they would get, but it's partly fair play, right? Some self-publishers get really mad about the non-compete agreements, but if they're discreet, as in small, finite, circumscribed, it's not that big of a deal. And it gives them an opportunity to do their exclusive, have that time to do their marketing. So mine is for 2 months before and 3 months after. So that means that if I want, and Never the Roses comes out July 8th. So that means that I could publish Magic Reborn by like May 8th, May 7th, and be good. Or I have to move it out to like October 8th. And Amazon will only let you schedule a year out. So I have to, what are the words I am looking for? So I have to wait until early October before I can set up that pre-order, which isn't a big deal. It's just I kind of want to do it now because I'm getting nice pre-orders on Strange Familiar book 2. Um, but I'm worried that May might be pushing it. So I'm going to see how well I do on having my writing mojo back and whether or not I think I can write those 2 books in that time. Keeping in mind that I'll probably have a couple sets of revisions on Rose in the Mirror. Certainly one of my own, possibly a couple from Allie. So, and the reason I say I don't care about Corinne's opinion, I do, but Corinne will just say I should not pressure myself and put it in October. So I don't know why I'm asking all of you, but if you have opinions, let me know. I have another friend who's wondering that same thing. She's been working on a book to go on submission with Trad, but now she's regretting that she has a book coming out and she's regretting that she doesn't have anything set up for pre-orders for the next book. And she's considering pausing and doing a novella. These are the things we think about. And that's part of the balance of the business. Yeah. So something I was thinking about, and this is like on another topic entirely. Let's go to politics. I've been seeing some analyses about this whole thing where we talk about Kamala Harris referring to her by her first name. And we said the same thing, like with Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, that with women we tend to use their first names, maybe first and last, but not the simply the last name, like we do with Trump. I have to make that face as I say Trump, and other names, political names. And so I've seen a couple of off-the-cuff analyses, which, of course, our social media system allows for anybody to express their opinion as if it's thoughtful, which frequently isn't. Present company not accepted, because obviously this is an incredibly thoughtful and carefully planned podcast wherein I never fill you with my random opinions. Ha ha ha. /S. That means sarcasm, Mom. Anyway, I was thinking about this because last night David and I watched Kamala Harris's speech from the Democratic National Convention. We watched it on YouTube because people had said how inspirational it was. And it was great to watch. I really liked it. She is so incisive. I like the way she cuts to the heart of things. It's just nice to listen to someone really smart talk about issues. So yeah, it was. I do recommend watching it. It was great. But they had in the crowd, because I hadn't seen any of this before, but they had purple signs, vertical banners that said Kamala, her name down, and they were chanting Kamala, Kamala, and I found it very effective. I found it very moving, and it's a unique name. And this is kind of what's put me in thought about this, because some of these analyses are saying, well, it's a patriarchy thing, that we refer to men by their last names and women by their first names because we don't give women as much power. And I was thinking, is that true? Because on the outset, I could see that, yeah, there's a certain logic to that. I disagree, however. And this is something I've actually been thinking about. I have been thinking about for coming on, 35 years, let's say. So low back when I was in graduate school, the chair of our department was a woman, Nancy Stanton. And Nancy, this is the same woman who gave me a worse grade on the essay exam than my male classmate, because she said that women have to work harder and do more. She was in some ways, and this is this is late 80s. she was a feminist in some ways, a scientist. She also had this incredibly traditional Wyoming rancher guy husband. And like, even though she was the chair of the Department of Zoology and Physiology, she had to be home and have dinner on the table every evening by a certain time. And she would say these problematic things to me. She would also comment on, like, if I passed her in the hallway, she would comment on how I was so skinny. Um, so, I mean, clearly she was a boomer woman with a lot of program misogyny and conflicting ideas. But I was commenting once on how I would refer to, we were in some kind of conversation, that I would refer to different faculty members in the department by first or last name, depending on the person. Like Nancy Stanton was always Nancy. Harriet Austin was always Harriet. But Rob George was Dr. George. And then, like, another professor was just Atherton. Another one was Bill Gurn, was just Gurn. And she said, well, I see it's sexism that, and I said, no, it's not. It's and she was really trying to push the sexism thing, that it was like the female professors I was calling by their first names. And I said, no, my own professor, my own advisor, Professor Zoltan Miklos Fuzesari, was Nick. Everybody called him Nick. Nobody called him Professor Fuzesari because it's harder, right? And I think it has to do with ease of pronunciation and also distinguishing the person. Because one of the things about, and maybe this is a patriarchy thing, you could definitely persuade me on this point, but that men's names tend to be, especially older generations, I think this is getting better, but they tend to be uninteresting. And a lot of men have the same names. Like in our family, we had 4 Daves. One of our Daves passed away, and now we're down to 3 Daves. But, there's Dave, Bob, John, Mike, Don, Bill, Rob, Bob. I probably said Bob twice. We don't talk about Trump because if we say Donald, there could be a lot of Donalds. If we say Joe, you don't know that we're talking about Joe Biden, right? If you say Kamala, there's one Kamala. So I think that, as with all things, there is more complexity and nuance than people want to entertain. Um, I mean, maybe the fact that women tend to have more variety in their names says something about, I don't know, patriarchy. Uh, I haven't given it that much thought in that direction. But if you all have thoughts, I'm very interested to hear them. So, long weekend here in the U.S., Labor Day weekend. I'm planning to work on Monday, so I will do the podcast that day regardless. Try to keep going on my mojo rebuild, and yeah, I'm more or less happy with how the book is going. It's early stages, and I'm really having to do the thing of thinking, banishing the doubts, right? Thinking, oh, how am I going to do a follow-up to Never the Roses, which, so many people really love. Although, interestingly, I do think some of my faithful readers don't like it as much, but it is a departure. So that's part of why we're doing a pen name on it, so that people will know it's a departure. Uh, the I'm looking forward to getting feedback from more people on it, and we'll see. So, anyway, that's me. Hope all is well with you. I hope if you get a long weekend that you get to spend it doing something that you really enjoy. And I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye-bye.